Hey guys, Chris again from ClassicVWBugs.com, and in this video I want to talk to you about media blasting. Now if you've browsed my website and you see some of the old projects that we've done, and you go through the slideshow galleries and you see the books that I make for every restoration that we do, you like to see that we like to gut our cars down to a bare nothing, strip everything out of it, and then we like to go down to bare metal before we paint the car. Why do you want to go down to bare metal? Well, you want to see what lies underneath. And many times we'll buy a project car that looks real solid and looks straight as an arrow, but until we start peeling away the layers, you can really see some problems you did not see in the beginning. You might find a lot of filler in one area that was covering some real bad welding scars, or the car was hit in the front and it was kind of kinked and they just kind of filled it with, again, filler or Bondo or fiberglass or something like that. These are the things you're going to want to repair before you then repaint the car, of course. So you want to straighten, straighten the car out so the paint finish looks mint. We've gotten fooled even recently that we get a car in and all of a sudden it looks straight, and you start to peel away the layers, and man, you start to find some real bad stuff that you never thought was going to come out. And I get stories like this all the time emailed to me. So what do? You like to media blast your cars, and in the past we've actually had guys jump on my car and then sand the car down to bare metal by hand or with a DA sander. That could be costly, that could be time consuming. So what are the next options then? Next options are to actually media blast. Whether you got a sand blaster, soda blasting, or walnut shell blasting. Those were the options that were kind of being used in the past. There was some other black bead options as well. Black magic, things like that, to actually strip the paint off the car. There's no Shangri-La with these blasters. There's one that's not really better than the other. I mean, they have their pros and their cons. Sand is really cool to do on some really strong surface areas, but you got to be careful with sand because it can really be harsh on the metal, warp the metal because it gets hot. And if you don't angle it correctly, you can really damage the metal or even go through the metal, so you got to be careful of that. Soda blasting is another option, but it seems like soda is will take the paint off, but doesn't really repair the rust as well as sand does. Walnut shell seems to be another great option, but understand that these are powered by air. And what happens is if you're not in a really wide open area, it could be, leave a cloud of dust behind and a lot of debris on the ground and make things a mess. And the other problem is that now all of a sudden the sand or the soda gets into the nooks and crannies of the car, whether it's in the heater channels, in the tight areas, and now you can't get that stuff out, and then that stuff is lingering in there even after you paint the car. And that's, you got to kind of be careful with that too. But we've recently come across a dustless water blasting. I think I mentioned it a few times in my newsletter, and if you do a Google search for dustless water blasting, you'll see there are companies out there that actually supply the units, or you can get in touch with people that actually you can hire to come to you. So what we did was my good friend Lucky Larry and his 1955 ragtop Beetle that we're restoring. Remember, this was the car last summer that we did. We went out to Rhode Island on a road trip to go see. It was in a garage for a bunch of years, and looked like a real great candidate for a restoration. Anything three-fold ragtop sunroof, man, it's on my list. So we're down to the paint elements now. We did a lot of welding on the car, and Larry's looking to paint his car. So we hired a guy that's actually mobile with the dustless water blasting unit, and he'll come to you to blast the car. Just got to make sure you're in a wide open location, you're kind of away from other residential homes and things like that, because it could be loud. So you don't want to disturb anybody. Do it in the middle of the night. But so we hired a guy, and he came to Larry's shop. We took the car off the chassis and put it on some blocks or some buckets so this guy can get in and blast this thing. Now the great thing about the dustless water blasting is that it's powered by water, it's non-toxic, so it's green, and it will blast the paint right off the car so easily, repairs the rust, and man, that metal is like a baby's ass after it's blasted. And the great thing about the dustless water blaster is that, yeah, you might have some leftover residue on the body, but then all you gotta do is just hose it off. There's very little, much of a dust cloud at all. Very little debris that's left on the ground after it's all blasted, and it really gets your car, opened up to really see what lies underneath. And now, the great thing about it is that you're starting from scratch, and then you can start to repair those areas that need the repairs. The other great thing about the dustless water blast is that once you blast it, unlike sand blasting, you don't have to rush to get it to the paint shop. It does some, it does like a protective coating on the car for a short period of time, so you don't have to rush to get the car to the paint shop to put a coat of primer on it so it doesn't start oxidizing. Sandblasting goes really down to bare metal, and it's so bare, you get a little bit of water on it, and now all of a sudden it starts to rust. So that's the other great thing about the Dustless water blaster. But the guy came to the shop, blasted the whole car in and out. It's about $1,000 to hire somebody to do something like that. It might be different in your areas, but he was done in basically about 5-6 hours from blasting the car in and out, and he's done in a day. As opposed to DA sanding or sanding the whole car down by hand, which can take all week, maybe 2-3 guys, and the cost of materials on top of that. So let's take a look at Larry's car getting blasted, and I highly recommend going with the Dustless water blaster or something similar to that nature. They use old glass bottles, recycled glass bottles, as the medium, and it's so fine. It looks like sand. It's so fine, but it does a fabulous job of blasting your car down to bare metal and repairing some of the old rust and really seeing what lies underneath. Because the last thing you want to do is scuff the old paintwork that's on the car and then put a new paint job on it, because what's happening today is that there's a lot of regulations when it comes to the new paints today, or new body shops that are using the new materials. They have to be EPA regulated, or they're they got to paint with water, a water-based paint, and the new material does not agree with the old material, and over time you're going to see the paint fail. Give it a couple years, you'll start to see checking or bubbling. You want to go for an inexpensive paint job. Those are the risks that you face. So, anyways, stop rambling. Watch this video. Really cool. Dustless water blasting. Blast your car down to bare metal. Glass.
Crushed glass.
Huh.
That's all it is. And it's so fine, it just goes right into the soil. I mean, there's nothing harmful about it.
I mean, it's got sand on it now, but there's no...
Yeah, but it's fucking sweet, man. Nice. Real nice.
It's sand, like you said, but it's not, there's no...
Yeah, but a garden hose, man, you rinse it off.
Yeah, that's
done.
it.
It's done.